Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/howshemoms. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
I'm Donna Dayton. I'm 89 years old, and I live in Heber City, Utah.
How long have you lived in Heber?
89 years. All my life.
Donna is a mother of 6, a grandmother of 24, and a great-grandmother of 29. She's also a dancer, a storyteller, and a poet. But she's not your typical poet. Here is perhaps her most famous work, entitled The Privy.
That little brown building at the rear of the yard, with a half-moon engraved, and a seat that is hard. It's built very sturdy to withstand nature's call. No one's exempt, it calls short and tall. The lid of the John was held up with a hook. A catalogue from Sears through the pages you'd look. Then, in case that the paper had slipped down the hole, ripped a sheet from the book, and it would now save your soul. Thank goodness for plumbing, a throne that is warm, for memories of privies don't hold too much charm. 2 holders were great if emergency came. When company was there, the smell was the same.
This is the How She Moms podcast, where we talk about how different moms solve the same problems. I'm Whitney Archibald, a mother of 5 children myself. I collect ideas so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. Donna is my grandma. I interviewed her this summer when I went to visit, mostly to have a recording of her memories in her own voice for posterity. But she's so delightful and hilarious and quite spicy, I even had to censor her once a little later on. And she gave such interesting insights into what motherhood used to be like that I just had to share her with you. Perhaps the most interesting insight came when I asked Donna about mom guilt. She didn't answer at first, just kind of got a puzzled look on her face, like she didn't understand the question. She definitely had never heard the term before. So I explained. So these days, a lot of moms talk about mom guilt and feeling like they're not doing enough for their kids. When you were a mom, did you feel like there was comparison with other moms, or that you didn't quite measure up?
I don't feel like we were all in the same. We were all poor. I think we all just did the best we could. Get them educated, go to church, and I was home tending them and there when they needed me.
Her reaction made me think. Maybe the whole concept of mom guilt, which is so pervasive these days, is as much a modern invention as disposable diapers and jogging strollers. Another concept that is utterly foreign to my grandma is imposter syndrome. When she enjoys something, she owns it without spending time worrying about whether she's good enough to claim it. She likes to dance, so she's a dancer. She enjoys writing poetry, so she's a poet. Never mind that she never studied either dance or writing in college and has never officially published a book. Although she did get a little nudge from a fortune teller.
Mom gave me a birthday party, and she had a friend that was kind of deaf and kind of an odd person. She come down this day, and so this woman was known for telling fortunes. So Mama had her tell all the kids' fortunes. She thought that'd be fun. On my fortune it said, "My dear, you will be a writer of poetry in your life." Now, if that made me go ahead and do it or not, whether she knew what she was talking about, but I did. A part of me chuckles as I think back on my youth, about folks in our town in our quest for life and truth. Families were so prolific, kids numbered 101. We had no television to watch after setting sun. So we made our own fun, every kid upon the street. The minute all chores were done, we made our plans to meet.
Not only has Donna lived in Heber her whole life, but when she and my grandpa got married, they lived within a 3-block radius of both of their childhood homes. Donna was blessed to be born to loving parents, Mary and Hiram Moulton. I talked to Grandma about her childhood in the 30s and 40s to get a glimpse into what motherhood was like for her mother, my great-grandmother. Donna was the youngest of 7 children.
My mother was 46 years old when I was born. So all I remember of her is gray hair. And she was a sweetheart. She did a lot of sewing. A lot of my clothes were made from hand-me-downs, and she remodeled them and fixed them up.
As for her dad,
he was a lover. Now, I'll tell you, he never left the house without kissing Mom. He just was fun. I was the baby, and I kind of had him wrapped around my finger.
Long before Donna was born, her mother lost 2 babies. And then when their first daughter, Blanche, was born, it looked like she wasn't going to make it either.
And the baby was so tiny that they would put it in a little box on the oven door to keep it warm. And this midwife, or whatever she was, said to him, "There's no use in worrying about that baby because it will not live. It's too fragile and it will not live." And when she left, Dad said, that baby is going to live. And she did live. It was Aunt Blanche, and she raised 8 children. But he was mad to think that she would say that awful thing about that new little baby.
Delivering babies and taking care of them was much different then. Harder in many ways, think cloth diapers without modern laundry facilities, but also easier in other ways, with the whole proverbial village to help you raise your kids. This story from when Donna was a baby is the perfect illustration.
She got really sick after I was born, and they weren't sure that she was even going to live. And so she had no milk. So my neighbor, just up the corner, had just had a baby, Donita Pop, and so she had a lot of milk, and so she told him to bring me up, and she would nurse me. And even in the night, the girls, Leah and Blanche, would have to get me up. And you know how many times a baby, and I was pretty tiny, and they'd take me up to get nursed in the middle of the night. And I don't think they liked me very good.
What a woman, though. That is so kind of her.
She was a great woman. She had a big family of her own. But Donita and I was the same age, and so that's how that happened.
While talking to my grandma, I vacillated back and forth between nostalgia for the good old days of twilight games of kick the can and relief that I don't have to pluck my own chickens.
We always played night games outside, run sheepy run and hide and go seek and kick the can, and we just did a lot of night games. In the wintertime, we'd always make candy. That was our big activity. And sometimes they'd go out and get snow, bring it in and make ice cream. But we made a lot of vinegar taffy and butterscotch candy. Another thing in the summertime that they like to do, Dad would hook the hose in, a big rubber inner tube, and then take a wire and tighten it right up so it couldn't leak. Then they'd turn the hose on, and this inner tube would get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally it got so big, and then while all the kids was all around it, it would explode, and everybody would get wet.
But life was obviously not all fun and games. Running a household was time-intensive and physical.
She had to heat the water to do the washing. She did have a washer, and I remember every Monday I'd come home and she was still doing washing. I always ended up hating to have to do the dishes because she didn't get them done.
Of course, Donna's mother would cook everything from scratch. They grew their own garden and raised their own chickens and cows. Caring for the animals had certain hazards.
One day I was taking the cow to the pasture, and I got a little bit too close, and he had missed and got his tail in it and flipped me with his tail, and I was covered with that SH. I went home bawling, and I said, "I'm never going to take Brownie to the pasture ever again." You don't want to follow too close to a cow's tail. And we had the chickens. Dad would catch the chickens with a hook and then put it on a big piece of wood and take the axe and chop its head off. And then the chicken would flip all over, and us kids would laugh our head about this chicken flipping all over the yard until it finally died. And then they'd put it in hot water, and they'd scald it, and they'd take the feathers off, and on Sunday we'd have it to eat.
And even with so much extra work to get food on the table, sometimes their kids still wouldn't eat it. Little Donna was as picky as any other kid.
I hated homemade cereal. Oh, there always was lumps in it. Cream of wheat. There's always a lump in cream of wheat.
Back then, moms weren't running each of their kids all around town to various activities, but Mary and Hiram made sure little Donna had opportunities to develop her talents.
Mom and Dad let me take tap dancing. In fact, Earl was one of the ones in the same class that we took tap dancing.
Really?
So I always liked to dance because they give me tap dancing lessons and they give me rhythm. I danced for all my life. I knew Earl, he danced, and he was a short little feller, and we all danced. And that's how come he was such a good dancer, is because he was in this tap dancing class, the same one I was in. We were dancers.
Earl and Donna would enjoy dancing together for the rest of their lives. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Audible. If you haven't already experienced Audible, now is a great time to start. Audible is offering listeners of the How She Moms podcast a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This week, since it's Halloween week, my recommendation is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. It's a slightly creepy but surprisingly hopeful and uplifting book that is a lot of fun to listen to with older elementary kids and up. I'm a big fan of Neil Gaiman, who is just so delightfully weird and a fantastic writer. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/howshemoms. Again, that's audibletrial.com/howshemoms for your free audiobook. And now it's time to officially introduce you to Earl, a major character in Donna's story. Did you always get along?
Earl and I?
Yeah, when you were kids.
He was always throwing snowballs at me. All we did, we was always friends, always. In his way, he was a teaser. That's the way he made love. I guess he was just teasing me. When we'd go to a birthday party, he was always there. And I remember going to one, they had a post office. And if you went to the post office, you had to buy a stamp and you got a kiss. And I got a kiss from Earl. He was kissing them all. He was a postman, I guess. I think when I really fell in love with him was about 16. I remember I would go to the grocery store, and he worked up in Skaggs grocery store, and I always wanted to wait until he was fixing the vegetables, and I always wanted to meet him up there. And I remember one time after I'd seen him at the grocery store, he says, "Would you go to the senior hop with me?" And I was delighted. We dated on and off and on and off, and he didn't make any big actions as to what was in the future. And his brother-in-law brought me home from Sunday school one Sunday, and he says, "Well, Donna, what's going on with this love affair? Are you making any decisions?" And I says, "Mark, I've waited for that man for 2 years, and I'm not waiting another minute. And he's going to either or get off the pot, because I'm out of here." I had a diamond that next Friday. That's awful stuff to put on the tape.
That's how to get things done.
I was serious, boy. I had waited all I was going to wait for that redhead.
they got married and they had their first baby. Okay, so what was early motherhood like for you?
Oh, I loved it. But Susan was not a happy baby. She would cry. I remember one night she was bawling her head off.
At the hospital.
This big nurse come in with this baby in her hands, and we were in a ward. There was about 5 beds in there, and all these women had babies. And she came in and she said to me, "Where's that Dayton woman?" And I says, "Right here." And she says, "I'm going to take this baby and put it right back where it come from. It's a mean child." She bawled all night, I guess.
Luckily, while she was learning the ropes of being a new mom, Donna had both her mom and her mother-in-law right around the corner, which is quite rare in our more transient culture now. Donna was a resourceful and loving mom. My own mom, Susan, who was such a pest in that hospital nursery, joins the conversation here.
Yeah, one time I had a bag packed and I was going to run away, and Mom says, "Well, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And she says, "Well, just a minute, let me pack some sandwiches, I'm going with you." So we went into the vacant lot next door and we sat in there in the weeds and ate our lunch.
Picnic.
And when we were finished, she said, "Well, where should we go now?" And I said, "Let's go home."
And sometimes it was Donna herself who needed to run away.
It was the time I got mad at all of you, and I was mad at Earl, and it was Sunday, and they come home from church, and he said something that didn't please me, and I picked up a frying pan, and I just wanted to hit him with it, and I looked at it, and I thought, "Donna, control yourself." I laid the frying pan down, and I got in the car and went up to the cemetery and talked to my mother. and I come home, and Earl said, "Where you been?" And I said, "Talking to Mom." And he says, "What'd she say?" And I says, "She told me to get home, and I made my bed, and I better sleep in it." And so, but the next day, the kids were still a little nervous about it. But boy, I come home, and this house was slicked up. Everything was spick and span. The dishes were done. And the next day, Linda went to school, and I told him I was running away, and I did for an hour or two.
Out to the cemetery.
And she went to school and cried to her teacher that her mama was going to run away. And she went down and told Mr. Rasband,
who was the
principal, that was her brother-in-law, that she had a little girl down there that was crying because her mother was going to run away, and could he straighten this out? And he called.
My dad was a teacher in the school.
Yeah, he was in the other. And so Mark called me up, and he said, "Your little girl is upset because you're running away from home." He says, "I think you'd better come up and solve this problem." I went up and got Linda and told her, "I'm not going to ever run away." I never told him that again. The others were old enough that knew I wasn't going to. I remember one time they were all down in the basement, and I don't know what they was doing, but they made me mad because they was laughing at me. It was David that was doing the dirty work or something.
Well, you were chasing him around the house.
I was chasing him, and I had a wooden spoon. And he come running through the house and jumped on Dad's lap. "Save me, Dad! She's going to kill me with that wooden spoon!"
Of course, they all knew the wooden spoon was just an act.
Isn't it a good thing that I don't have to remember beating my kids? Because a lot of families that I knew, those used to take a strap to their children.
By this time, Donna had 4 kids, and she wasn't done yet. Did you always know you wanted a bunch of kids?
Oh, no, I thought I was through at 4. Gee, I didn't want any more than that.
They said Linda was the caboose.
Yeah, she was supposed to be the caboose. And then, well, lo and behold, 5 years later, here come Laurel. Everybody was thrilled to death with that new redhead.
That one little redhead soon became 2 little redheaded girls, to make 6 kids in all. Here's a poetic little glimpse into her life at that time, It may sound a bit familiar.
I often get busy, my mind starts to race. I must make the bed, I'll first wash my face. Brushing my teeth, the sink needs scrubbed. First it's my shoulder, it needs to be rubbed. I'd better put heat on the muscle that's sore, but then on the dresser was an old apple core. Into the trash I remember the day. Trash truck is coming, it cannot stay. While I'm walking in, I think of a friend. Run over and visit, my schedule I'll bend. Bread's ready to bake, it's much too high. The oven needs clean, tomorrow I'll try. The phone rings out and I talk too long. Oh, what did she want? Sheet music, a song. I look for that, need to file all my tunes. I must have a cabinet and it must be soon. There are clothes to wash, batch or two. Oh, she can wear it, it smells like new. Dinner time is now, and what will we eat? Potatoes and peas, that's always a treat. But I'm out of peas and milk's all gone too. I'll run uptown and get some for you. I'll end the day, I wonder what's done. You see from my house the battle's not won. I've no peace of mind, my nerves are a wreck. Feel as mixed up as a shuffled card deck. There's something I need, it's called a goal. I'll work till it's done, it will save my soul.
But when Donna was frustrated with mom life, she always had her village to fall back on. My mom is doing most of the talking in this clip, and she wasn't very close to the mic, so sorry about the sound quality.
Back in those days, very few women worked outside the home, and so they would get together in the daytime and chat while the kids played, and like the whole neighborhood would be over in one yard while playing, while the mothers were just visiting. It was easy to mother. They had their own support group, and they would chat over, well, what do you do if you've got a child that wets the bed, or something like that, They would just hash it out among themselves, and they'd try different things. But, I mean, you didn't have any other resources, just one another.
There are some things about my grandma's parenting that we can't recreate. The small town life where kids roam free, a world where the radio is the most high-tech contraption you own. But one thing we can recreate is the way moms supported one another. In fact, I hope we're building a kind of support group right here at How She Moms. Whether you work or stay home with your kids, whether you yell or lose your patience a bit more than you'd like, or heat up chicken nuggets a little more than you think you should, we're all just doing the best we can. If we can give ourselves and the other mothers we meet a little more grace, there's no reason we shouldn't be as puzzled as my grandma was when I mentioned the concept of mom guilt. Maybe that's a gift we can give each other and the next generation of moms.
Nowadays, when life gets hectic and we've spread ourselves so thin, I think back through the years there was time for kith and kin. There was homemade bread and jam, canned fruit on our tabletop, time for vinegar taffy, a season that seemed to stop. Our pleasures came in small things, we were charmed by life's surprise. Neighbors were like our family, each important in our eyes. Our lives were rich and good, loving memories bring us back. Our town, friends and family, happiness we never lacked.
Thank you for listening to the How She Moms podcast. There are lots of ways you can add your ideas to the How She Moms community. We have a new Facebook group where we share ideas about upcoming topics and help each other solve problems we're facing in motherhood. And you can also follow How She Moms on Instagram for quick tips and ideas. And of course, you can go to howshemoms.com where you'll find transcripts of episodes and lots of other great resources. Special thanks to my mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.